I was talking about the Pandora story, and then in the Pandora story, I told you that Zeus gave Pandora a gift. That's a short form of the story. You can read it up the main story later on. But Zeus gave Pandora a box. Pandora is a very pretty young lady married to one of Zeus's uncles, and then he gave him a box, and inside that box was a lot of misery, like all the bad things of life was inside that Pandora's box. But because she didn't know and she thought it was all rosy, she opened the box and let loose a lot of misery to the world. Before she opened the box, she had that dilemma because the box was very beautiful. She had that dilemma: should I open it? Should I check? And she was warned not to open it. So she kept on disturbing herself. Should I open it? Should I open it? Now that's the same story. That's the same ideology behind the Internet of Things. Here it says, in many ways, the story of technological change and regulation is Pandora's story. Okay? It's Pandora's story. Now, technology can be understood only through the lens of risk and uncertainty. So the questions you have to ask yourself while using technology is this: how could this new technology be used? How might it improve people's lives? How may it harm those same lives that it was meant to improve? Now, these are the things you're thinking about when you are trying to dive into a new technology. This is what countries think about. This is what big companies think about. Okay? So you're looking at this set of questions as a block to moving forward. So standardization is what helps avoid some of these things. Okay? Now, smart objects produce large volume of data. This data needs to be managed, processed, transferred, stored, and so on and so on and so forth. Now, standardization is key to achieving universally accepted specifications and protocols. For my device to be able to work with your device, for my device to understand your device, there needs to be some form of standard that both of them will use. Now, those standards are all keyed into three different broad spectrum. The use of standards. You can use standards to ensure interoperable and cost-effective solutions, meaning there has to be interoperability between the things that want to be connected to the internet. Of course, because of standards, you open up opportunities in new areas, and it allows market to reach its potentials. And the standards we're talking about now, set by organizations or set by government bodies, is in three different categories or three different types. You have the anticipatory standards, you have the preparatory standards, and you have the responsive standards. I'll explain what the three of them are. Now, the anticipatory standards, they work with implementations. That means at the time when those things were not there yet, they've not been put to full use. That's when you use anticipatory standards. You're anticipating that this technology will be used in this way, so you create a standard for it. Okay, I hope I've gotten that. You're anticipating a particular technology and how it will work, so you create a standard. For example, if we anticipate that our car is going to be running 100 kilometers per hour for 6 hours every day, then we can now create a standard that says, okay, if your car model cannot get up to 100 kilometers per hour, you shouldn't even enter the road. Nobody should buy it. So those are the kind of anticipatory standards I'm talking about. You anticipate a technology, then you create a standard for it. Okay? Now, participatory standards is different because it means that you are side by side with the technology itself. Participatory is basically rubber stamp. It's already, the thing is already on. The technology is already successful. It's already moving. And then you join it and then you create a standard that matches it. And then the last one there is the responsive standards, that the one that arises as a result of a technology that has come up, right? When the technology pops up, and then you create standards to checkmate things happening around that technology. So those are the three different type of standards that, yes, IoT is currently dealing with right now. So according to ISO, the ISO is the International Organization for Standardization. As at the late 2016, over 900 IoT related standards is already in existence. So over 900 of them. And in that 900, we're looking at 140 is coming from the IEEE. These are the persons responsible for electronics. So the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, they have about 140 standards, and then about 200 is coming from the International Telecommunications Union, the ITU. And the last 300 is talking about the Joint Committee for ICT Standardization. It's a committee made up of different standard organizations. Okay, so all of this are the key players in standardization and IoT as it is. Electronics, we deal with those sensors and those devices that you create. Telecommunication is the means of communication, and so on and so forth. So these are the standards that we're looking at. Okay, and then moving forward with the SSOs, they are referred to as SSOs, standard setting organizations. Organizations that are responsible for setting standards. You have ISO, which is like the very big one. Then you have the Internet Engineering Task Force. These ones are the ones responsible for everything that conforms with the internet. Everything that wants to use the internet has to conform to the Internet Engineering Task Force. And then you have, on the European side of it, you have the European Telecommunications Standard Institute. And then you have the ITU, I mentioned that before, International Telecommunication Union. And then the last one there is the Worldwide Consortium. It doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop at these ones. There are so many. So several SSOs have become active in IoT standardization and have already developed a considerable number of standards. Okay, whenever we talk about SSOs, they are organizations that develop standards. I hope I've gotten that. Okay, so this is a list of the different companies, the different outfits, the different establishments, the different committees that are responsible for setting standards for IoT. I'm pasting that on our chat group, on the live conversation, and I'm going to paste that as well on the WhatsApp group. Okay, so you can visit the site at any time and then check out the list of people there. Check out the list of companies, organizations that run the standards. On reference materials, I've uploaded some reference materials on our class platform. I'm going to upload those same reference materials on YouTube, on our WhatsApp page, in case we're having problems accessing these materials on the platform. But these are all reference materials concerning standards, IoT standards. Okay, I've seen the materials. Let me just quickly put them up. Okay, at your own time, please read up these materials. They are not so many, they are not voluminous. So understand what the standards are currently and how to key into it. Because if you want to do business in the IoT environment, if you want to do business using IoT, you have to understand those standards. Breaching it comes with consequences. So that's why I'm dwelling on this. Okay, moving forward. Okay, before I move forward, let me ask questions, or let me get questions from you. If there are questions from the few things I've explained right now, you can please let me know on our live conversation or on the WhatsApp section if you have any questions. If you have no questions, we can move forward to a different section. Tony has lost audio again. Okay, can everybody hear me? Peace wants to say something. Peace, are you there? Hello, Peace, are you there? Okay, so you indicated you wanted to ask a question. Okay, yeah, I can hear you. Yes. Yeah. No, you have to just read their standards, right? And make sure your device meets those standards. It's not like you have to seek permission from them to build your own device. Do you understand? So it's just you check out their standards and build based on their standards, or else yours will become a local. It will just be on the local front. You will not be able to go global with it. Okay, I see that. Yes, the timing, the question time, the microphone time is always short, so it usually cuts off. So I apologize for that. But peace, did you get my answer? Okay, Mr. Samuel, Damilare, you have a question. Hello, Samuel. You indicated you have a question. Okay, Obayemi. Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please. Okay. Yes. I didn't hear you again. I think the thing timed out. You are not seeing any of them. Okay. Are you serious? When I send, you see, but you can't see my own. Okay, so luckily I'm doing it on both sides. Whatever I'm doing here, I'm doing on the other side as well. Okay, I've noted the error, so that I will inform management for that. Okay, someone asked a question. All right, someone asked a question. Mr. Jude asked a question. Is the Standard Organization of Nigeria concerned with IoT standards as well? For now, there's no specific department responsible for IoT under SON. You know, SON has been dealing with consumer goods, and the concept of, remember the three standards I mentioned, the three different types of standards or classes of standards I mentioned: anticipatory, participatory, and responsive. For now, because there is no much talk about IoT in Nigeria, there's currently no responsive standard, and Nigeria don't do much of anticipatory standards as well. So there's no much information going on as far as SON and IoT is concerned. In fact, all around the world, there's no much going on. It's only a very few standard organizations, like big organizations, that have been able to come up with laws. Britain, not quite long ago, they actually even brought up one for their own ecosystem. US, yes, US has been in it for a long time. China has been in it for a long time. But most countries are yet to start adopting and developing their own standards. Okay? Okay, so let's move forward. Let's move forward. If you have any other question, right, you can drop it on the WhatsApp chat platform. That one, even if we log out of class, I should be able to see it and answer those questions as well. Okay, so now moving forward, we're looking at guiding IoT to safety. Because there's one thing about new technology. If you find yourself being a part of the people who bring new technology, you find yourself as part of people who can help guide that technology, who can help inform people about that technology. The persons that hit the internet before the internet became a wild thing, they are millionaires and billionaires now. So there's a way to be able to guide the IoT itself to safety. And one of the ways we think about is getting government involvement. Okay, so this is with the Internet of Things at the peak of its hype cycle, the questions are swelling more than ever. Now, what questions are they talking about? The question they're talking about is, how could this technology be used? How might it improve people's life? And how may it harm people's life? Those are the questions we're talking about. So here Pandora's companies are faced with the same Pandora problem. Should we dive into this? What if I dive into this and something goes wrong? Now, let me give you a typical example. Imagine a company that dives into, or that drove into Twitter last month or 2 months ago. Maybe they just spent 10 million investing into creating adverts on Twitter, and suddenly the federal government bans Twitter. So you understand the kind of fear that comes with technology and regulations as it is. So companies looking to implement IoT solutions are facing a box that may contain significant new revenues and quite possibly technical difficulties, future regulations. So these are the things that are scaring companies from jumping into IoT as it is. So do they risk opening the IoT box and facing these uncertain regulations? Or do they leave it closed and risk missing out on the potential most transformative technology since the internet? All these things are what CTOs, CEOs, and MDs battle with on daily basis. Should we invest in this and face the consequences however it comes? Or we should just forget and make our small money that we make along the side? Now, one key to making an informed decision is humanizing risk is to reduce uncertainty. Now, the more people that get to know about it, when I mean people, not everybody, but the more people that are concerned, the more people in authority gets to know about it, the more uncertain, the more certain things will become. So uncertainty about future regulations change when people get to know more about things. For example, if government was invested in Twitter, if the government of Nigeria was invested in Twitter, they might have taken a different approach because it will mean Nigeria losing money. So you understand such things. Now also, there is pressure for regulators. So pressure is mounting to protect consumers. Government has to think about consumers. So even while IoT technology itself is still developing, but it is often blunt instrument of regulation. People just fear what they don't know. So because we don't know it, let's first of all keep it. So regulations can take no action because they are uncertain about the technology. Now, because regulators don't take actions, companies too will not be able to take actions because they don't even know what kind of regulations will come up. Do you understand some of these things? So there's this bit of back and forth. If regulators don't come out to say something, the companies will not might fear what will come out later on. Just like we're always scared of whenever there's a political change in the country, we're always scared of what will be the way forward. If you've been around the circle of people who do business, they tell you that during election period, during the regime change, they don't bring in much new business because they don't even know the direction that the new government would follow. But all of this is in our own place now to inform, to make the uncertain certain, to educate people about this. Okay, now look at this table or look at this figure, look at this picture, and see how we have been going back and forth, or how technology has been making things go back and forth. This is called the catch-22 of regulating fast-moving technology. You see the innovators on one side, on the left side. Innovators are waiting because of lack of regulatory clarity, right? They don't understand how the regulations will adopt their technology, the delay in the format that they will use. While they are doing that on the left-hand side, check out on the right-hand side. Now, the government as regulators, they cannot take action to regulate fast-moving technology. They have to be able to at least understand the technology before they can take actions. So while innovators are waiting, government is waiting as well. And then you have this back and forth, moving in circles. But look at possible ways to solve this problem. Using government's other roles to break the catch-22 blockade. So you are looking at on the left side now. Now innovators know the parameters of responsible use. They have good example and right tools to do it. Now government is participating as a user and an infrastructure provider. So when government is participating in it, it's easier for them to make laws, to bring up regulations that would guide the use. Okay, somebody's asking a question. Joy is saying, concerning IoT, is it possible for intruders to hack the information gotten from the sensor devices? Yes, it is. But that is the major fear for IoT. Imagine someone who is able to hack your computer. Let that person, the person hacks your computer, and your computer is connected to the internet, and not just to the internet, to the entire system. That means your computer is connected to the gateway, and not only your computer, your AC is connected to the gateway, your light bulb is connected to the gateway, your security is outside your door, your gate, everything is connected to that gateway. And he hacks into that gateway. Imagine what he can do. Imagine the kind of ransom he would be able to hold you. He could lock you out of your house or lock you in your house, and you cannot go out. He could turn on light off, light on and off, turn on your AC whenever he likes. Check out some of the things happening in US and some of these developed countries about hacking. Someone hacks the entire power grid. It's like hacking PACN and turning off lights in an entire city, or turning off water in an entire city. That's what they go through because their own system is advanced. They are connected to the internet. So that's the kind of possibility. That's why people are scared of connecting everything to the internet. So someone hacks your system and hacks your phone, and then controls your phone, controls your gate, controls your AC, controls your fridge, and so on and so forth. It's dangerous. That's why some countries are not even thinking about it yet. Okay? Now that's what the regulation is all about. Being able to make sure that people who are producing devices and meet a particular standard. You cannot produce your device and your device has a default password. That a hacker knows the default password and can hack into the device using the default password. So those are the things that we'll be able to deal with as standard setting organizations. That's what they battle with moving forward. Okay, so these are examples of how governments have been able to weigh into IoT as it is, to create standards for IoT. So you have UK Department of Digital and Culture, Media and Sports, ensuring that all IoT devices are secure and protected. So you cannot create your own and leave it open. Okay, so that's like one. And the other one, like it says Singapore, the European Commission is the one in charge there, and then they are saying that you have to have a trust label. That means if your product does not meet that trust, does not get that trust label, you might not be able to do much business. Okay, so you have to meet that standard before you can do business. Imagine all passwords for device, them saying that all passwords for device must be unique, and you cannot be able to, you can't reset it. And you should be able to, for you to produce devices that would join the internet, you should be able to provide first-hand support, 24/7 support. So you can't just produce your device and dump it there. And when someone's trying to reach you, the producer, they can't even get to you for a day or two. What if it's hacked? And they can't even reach you for a day or two to provide solutions. So these are little standards that the government has been able to put in place, for different governments have been able to put in place. Okay, so moving forward, this year's IoT breakthrough winners, we're looking at companies that have been able to create some breakthrough technology. We're not going to go so deep into this. I'm just going to scale through. Later on, when we're doing our use case scenario, when we are running through our use case scenarios, you get to know some of these companies better. Okay, so you have for connected home, for smart homes. That's what the connected home is about. Look at the number of companies that are at the forefront of the smart home. You have Level, you have Lenovo. I think that one is a bit popular to us. Others might be strange, but look at GE Appliances. GE Appliances has been able to create some quite interesting internet-enabled devices. Okay, these are not just like the only. These are just the ones who have been able to win, to come out on top of the ecosystem. Okay, the connected home as well. This is a continuation of the connected home. You can see D-Link there. D-Link is a quite popular thing, company for IT persons. They produce switches, routers, and so on and so forth. Check out the last one there, Alexa, the Amazon Alexa. Okay, so I expect that some of us should be thinking of getting an Amazon Alexa already, because it's one of your introduction to Internet of Things. Being able to speak to Alexa, give it a command, tell it to play music, tell it to do a few things, tell it to help you search the internet, and so on and so forth. Okay, so these ones are for consumer IoT. So you have the Apple smartwatch. It's a very popular one. The Apple smartwatch. Other ones here, you have the Cool Pad. They're all wearables, things you can wear, things you can have around you. These are consumer IoTs. Enterprise IoT, you have the following companies. You have Tata there. You have Lynx there. It also continues. You have DigiCert. You have Amazon. Lenovo is here as well. See, Schneider Electric is here as well. So all of these are enterprise IoT. The IoT components. These ones produce components for other IoT devices or for other devices. So you have Qualcomm. Qualcomm is very popular among IT guys too. The Fujitsu is there as well. So these ones are IoT components. Now on the industrial side of things, these are the companies who have been able to break through on the industrial side of things. You have Leviton, you have Akenza, you have Utron, Trinity. These ones are a bit strange, but I'm sure you will know this particular company. If you have heard of Cisco before, Cisco has been able to join them in machine-to-machine communications. Okay, Cisco have been able to do great work on that. And then the last one here, the IoT partner and ecosystem. You have these companies have been able to provide some good ecosystem. Okay, and then for connected car, this is a single product, like the single products. So you can see these ones have been able to support some of these big brand car companies who are interested in Internet of Things. You heard of the new 2021 Benz, how many sensors the Benz is coming with. If you have not, go and Google it, go and find out how many sensors the Benz come up with or has. So these companies have been able to build things. The Herman is a branch of Samsung. Okay, health and wellness. Apple has done a lot in health and wellness. They've done a lot of things. They've been able to capture a lot. The Apple Watch has been sensational for health and wellness. There are so many more. There are so many more, but these ones are the 2021 winners. While on the general IoT, this is what you have. Don't worry about how fast I'm moving through these things. I told you before that I'll still send the slides along so that you can understand. Do we have questions for where we are so far? Because we're moving on to the derived qualities of modern ICT. This is the place we are going to have our conversation. We're going to go back and forth. Oh, Bayami, is it a new question? Okay. Hello, Bayami. Yeah. Yes. Now the thing is, Tesla is not telling us who they got the components from, right? The person who supplied components to them. They are not the ones that are creating those components. Do you understand? So unless we check the documentation for Tesla to know the companies they've been allied with, the companies that they work with that produces those contents for them. So it could be one of those companies I've mentioned already that has been the one providing this information or providing those sensors and those technology for them. You know, these big companies, Tesla is an electric car company. Now, unless they have a department that is on R&D for IoT, they easily will work with other companies who are already breaking grounds in IoT to provide for them. Okay? Okay, your mic is still turned on. Okay. Okay. All right, so let's look at the derived qualities of modern ICT. Now, what comes to your mind when we talk about context? whenever I hear the word context, I always wind back to talking. You say something and someone understands it a different way, and then you say you don't even understand the context I'm coming from. Now, context awareness has always been something that people see as a big issue, that the IT world is seen as a big issue as far as artificial intelligence is concerned, because human beings can discern context easier than a machine will be able to discern context. I'll show you an example when we move forward. Here it says context awareness is a behavior that depends on information about the context of any entity. Okay, so we're going to look at how IoT is kind of stuck, how artificial intelligence is kind of stuck as regards to context. Now, information about context is obtained from a variety of sources, sensors. Okay, let me mention this example. I'm sure you can connect with this example practically. Do you notice that your laptop, sometimes there's a language that turns itself on? Now, when you go to Google Chrome or any of the browsers, it wants to browse in the language of the location where you are. If you are in the east, it wants to speak Igbo. If you are in the west, it wants to speak Yoruba. If you are in the north, it's giving you Hausa language. Now, that is context, right? Now, it's using the sensor for location that you turned on to give you services based on the location where you are, language and time mostly. You wake up in the morning and your system is connected to the internet, and you see morning, you see AM, you see good morning from Google. So it's giving you that because of the sensor for time, the one that is giving it time. So that's what I'm referring to. Moving forward, this says the utilization of contextual information is most frequently associated with time and location. Okay, something I was just talking about right now. However, any further aspects can be included in a context model if correspondent information or sources exist or sensors exist. Okay, so moving forward, this also talks about what I just explained now. So it is expected that more contextual information will be utilized in the future, and device settings and services will automatically adapt accordingly. I would love my phone to be able to adapt accordingly based on where I am. For example, if I walk into my church, I would like my phone to understand that this is my church, so put my phone on silent. And I mentioned that before, if you use any of the smartphones, there are AI technologies that do that. My Samsung, the Bixby, the AI called Bixby in it, does that. If I come to my church and every time I get there I turn off my sound, it goes to vibration mode. I've done it so many times that it understands it, that every time I walk into that area, it takes it straight to vibration. Or my office, I walk into my office, every time I walk into the office I put it on meeting mode. Now I've done it so many times and now it knows. So it's using my location to serve me content, to help me deal with things. Now that's what this is talking about. Although we know that yes, phones and laptops are built without, it doesn't adapt much, but we're looking at IoT, so things are changing. Now the smart environment must be able to correctly recognize the context and the intention of the user. Okay, so let's get ready to have a conversation. Let's share. Now this is a case scenario. The smartwatch can contact the emergency services, can dial 911, can dial 122 as Nigeria's case, and get you an ambulance when your heart rate changes. In this case, there's a fainting. So this guy in the picture has just fainted, but he's wearing an internet-enabled device, an IoT device, that contacts the hospital directly. Okay, and then the ambulance comes and then takes him to the hospital, and he's doing quite well and he's doing okay. Now everybody understands this, right? Okay, now let's check out this. The girl on the left, the same thing, fainted, but can you truly be sure that the guy on the right has fainted, or he's just resting, or he's just sleeping? Is it possible that you can be sure that that this person has fainted? Now, if you as a person cannot even be sure, how do you think IoT, the device itself, can understand the context itself? Now, bear this in mind and look at this last picture. This person is just falling down for joy. Okay? There are other things that could be different from falling down for joy. They could be, I'm tired, I want to rest. Sometimes you just come back home from the office, you just go to your bed and fall into the bed, and sleep will just carry you. When does the IoT device know that this is fainting and this is sleeping? You already know what the IoT device is all about, how there's sensing, there's connectivity, and so on and so forth. So let's discuss. Let's do it on the WhatsApp platform, because some persons are complaining that on the live conversations, not everybody can see it. So let's do this on the WhatsApp platform. Let's discuss. Tell me, the question now is, what variables do you think can be imputed on the device to help you differentiate when someone has fainted and when someone is just lying down? Okay, I want to get your feedback. Okay, for some of us that want to talk, I just hope the platform will allow you enough time so you can request for the mic so that I'll give you access to talk. Okay, someone says, I feel the variable used on the device is pulse sensors. Okay, that should be able to distinguish between the meaning of the different heart rates. Okay, the other one says, like you mentioned about the sensor that senses the heart pulse. Okay, so the device should be able to tell the pulse, the temperature, and the heart rate. Okay, okay. Okay, so I like the fact that we've been able to get the real idea. Maybe I spilled it out a little bit by mentioning such things, but I like the fact that we've been able to mention it. Say the variable is the pulse. Okay, I think the variable should be the heartbeat rate. Good. Blood pressure. Good. So you know that context, the context itself, is what has been an issue for IoT, or else you get false positives. Okay, now let me give you another example. Since this one, we all captured this one, I've all been able to get this. Let me give you another example so we can discuss on that. Motion sensors, right? Motion sensors as security has been able to do great job. But then, you remember that it's everything that moves. Most things that move can trigger that motion sensor. So it's not just about human being passing. It's about any object that flies past will trigger the motion sensor. So what do you think can be changed in that motion sensor to reduce the false positives, to stop it from shouting when the bird flies across, to stop it from screaming when a cat comes in? I know you must have seen some movies where that happens, like a raccoon or a rat will just trigger sensor, and after triggering it like 3 times, the owner will turn it off because it's disturbing. Now, what variable do you think we can change to make the sensor more pinpoint, to get the correct thing, to understand the context itself? Okay, somebody said the ECG. Yes, a good device that helps tell if one is sleeping or has fainted. That's a good one. Okay, someone says, Mr. Jude said motion sensors should be accompanied with imaging sensors that can identify objects. Okay, so you are saying there has to be an encompassing of 2 sensors. It doesn't have just to be motion sensor alone. So you have imaging and motion combined together. Okay. All right. The other one said, the other person, Mr. Ola said that the sensor should be set to recognize certain things. You should be able to tell if it's human or an animal. Yes, I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying, what kind of variable should be touched? Like what kind of variable? Mr. Jude already said we can merge motion and imaging. So when something is moving, the imaging can now turn on. So the motion sensor would alert the imaging sensor that something is moving. So check. Then imaging sensor checks and then proper informs maybe the sound, whether it's time to start shouting or not. So those little variables are the things we're looking at. That's the things that's letting us handle this particular topic. These derived qualities of modern ICT: adaptability, proactivity, and context awareness. So all of this, understanding that helps inform your decision. Okay, Tony is agreeing to the imaging sensor and the motion sensor. Okay, so now you understand the way some of these things would have to interrelate, how they will have to interact with each other. Now imagine if the company that produces motion sensors is doing a different thing entirely without standard, and the ones doing the imaging, they are not even following any standard. Imagine the discord, imagine the problems in interaction between the two sensors. Okay, so we have come to agree that multiple sensors will work. Okay, now there are some instances where the weight that is being put on the ground is put into consideration. That means the weight of the person who's stepping on that motion sensor is considered as well. I know you must have seen some movies where that becomes a thing. So the person avoids touching the ground at all. Do you understand? So those things help detect. So you set the weights properly to adjust for the human weight. There's a range, of course, that the human weight will fall into. So anything lighter than that might not be captured. For example, if I have my motion sensors all embedded on my compound, and then a bird just perches, the weight of a bird is way less than the weight of a human being. So there's definitely no way a bird will trigger the sensor, but a human being tries it and the sensor is triggered. So those are the little things that we deal with, that we understand, to be able to get the things to get to where we're going to. Okay, now the last part of what we're dealing with today is the Internet of Things framework. The framework itself. I told you we're going to skim through this. Later on we would come back to it and talk about it in full, because here we'll now start talking about real IT terminologies. Okay, so the Internet of Things framework. This is a summary of what we refer to as the Internet of Things framework. Take a look at the picture. Let me see if I can put this on the platform so that everybody can see, on WhatsApp, so that everybody can see it. So you can zoom it. Okay, I'm adding the picture now. Okay, I've added it to the platform. Now the IoT framework is where we're going to keep coming back to. Now at the core part of the framework, at the core, modern information and communication technologies form the technical foundation for IoT. That layer one technology is the building blocks. Every other thing is built on top of it. That's why you saw me label building blocks to that one. Okay, IoT generates a network of unambiguously identifiable physical objects. There's networking. So the ability to communicate does not only refer to human participants, but also to the objects involved, object to object communication. So they are equipped, these objects are equipped with processors and actuators that can take action based on information they are receiving. Okay, so the technology layer is the building blocks of an information communication technology infrastructure for the computerization of everything of the everyday world. So the level itself is where all the hardware and software components are, as well as the highly developed technologies. Now, if you take a closer look at the four of them, there's technology, there's qualities, there's potential, and impact. The bulk of the work is done on the technology aspect or the technology layer. Now, when that is achieved, every other thing is tweaking and turning, just fine tuning. On the qualities layer, you have smart objects and flat smart environments. Them being able to adapt, understand context, have an intuitive interaction, increase data quality. Let me give you an example of an intuitive interaction. I think I mentioned that a little bit in the last class. We talked about, imagine if your air condition, currently there's an actuator that checks the temperature in the room and turns off the AC, right? When you set your temperature to like 16 and the room gets very cold, going below 16, the AC turns off. Then whenever the temperature is going above, it turns on again. That's how a normal AC works, or new modern AC works. Now imagine in the context of you're wearing a smartwatch, and the smartwatch is the one checking your core temperature, and the smartwatch is communicating with the AC. And then it's not just the AC now, just using 16 degrees to turn on and turn off. That same 16 degrees that's turning on and turn off when you are sleeping can kill you. But the smartwatch is understanding where your body temperature needs to cool down and needs the cold doesn't need anymore. So that's the kind of interactions, minus the regular talking to a device like Alexa, telling Alexa to do something. Alexa is giving you answers. Alexa is giving you trouble sometimes. Google too is giving you trouble. You are telling Google you're going left, and Google is telling you go right, and you are sure that the whole you're supposed to go left, and Google is telling you it's turn right, turn right, turn right. I've encountered such before. I was traveling, I was driving, and Alexa said turn left, and left is farm road. The road continues straight, but Alexa is saying Google is saying turn left. I just turned off and continued following the road. Then when I came out in another major road, I turned it back on, and it calibrated again, and we continued moving. So those qualities is what you are thinking about after the device has been, after the connectivity, the technology, the sensors, everything has been assembled. Now you're thinking about the next one. After that one, you're looking at potentials. Okay, from potentials, you're looking at the impact phase, the information, the turning the world into an information. It's not just you bringing information anymore. The information is already there. Everything is communicating with everything. So yours is to their own is to make your life easier. Everything is already connected. Now that is the Internet of Things framework. It's on top of this that the idea behind making life easier is built upon. Okay, once again, it's technology, qualities, potential, and impact. Okay, so looking at this is where our class is going to be stopping today. Before I get back to my assessments, this is what we're going to be looking at in our next class: how the internet works, the major IoT building blocks and layers. We're coming back to discover or to decipher these whole building blocks, that technology layer itself, the layer number one. We're going to tear it down into pieces and understand what it entails. And then we're going to look at the architecture and reference model. That's what our next class is going to be. And I told you that we're going to be having sometimes we're going to be having a blended classroom. So we're going to be to be turning things upside down this time around. From me teaching and you understanding, we're going to move into the part of learning called flipped classroom. So I'm going to release the topics that we're going to deal with on Tuesday, and then you read up on it. I'll give you a chance to communicate with us, to talk to us. Now I'm going to check my assessments. For those of us who have scored 555 in all of my assessments and are corresponding to the introductory form you filled, if where we are going into, I notice that you have a high level of knowledge, I would assign you a specific task. But for the general assignment, we're going to be looking at two things. Please read up, search, Google, research for these two words: secure by design and the Internet of Things Cybersecurity Improvement Act. Okay, I'm posting these two on WhatsApp, giving that as an assignment. Okay, secure by design and the Internet of Things Cybersecurity Improvement Act of 2020. Check it out. You understand some of the fears that the standard organizations are going through. Okay, so after that, and then we look at my assessment. I'm copying the link now and I'm posting it on the WhatsApp group and the chat platform. Okay, somebody said they are not on the WhatsApp group. Please, can you check your materials list on this platform? There's one that says WhatsApp link. I'm talking to Victor Taiwo. Check, there's a WhatsApp link on your materials list. Click on the link and you should be able to join our WhatsApp platform. Okay, I've posted that. No, even if you have not filled the form, check our materials list. You should see the introductory form there. If you don't see it there, let me know. I can send it to you on a personal level, or let me just even I can copy it and paste it here immediately. For those of us that missed out on things at the beginning, not to worry. Our assessments for next week, the assessment we will start with for Tuesday, will be encompassing everything we have done so far. It's like a repetition. So for those ones that aced it before, they should be able to ace it as well. Introductions. I had some introductions before. Okay, I have the link somewhere here. Okay, don't worry. When later on I'll post it and then you should be able to follow through. Okay, so thank you very much for joining our class today. Our numbers are increasing. I need it to increase the more. It hurts me that the persons who might join us later on will miss all of this and come and join us in the future. It might be a problem. Because if you want to do business with IoT, you must understand this part of it before we get to that hands-on practical, where it's not everybody that would end up being electronic producers, producing electronic machines and producing sensors. Some of us will use it. Some of us will create awareness for it and make money out of it. Some of us will key into another person's design and use it to make money. So you need to understand all of these introductions to know how people would accept these technologies. So thank you very much for joining the class. Are there any questions before we can call it a day? If there are questions, please indicate and let me grant you access to the mic. Okay, Mr. Samuel. All right, I can hear you. The slides, yes, definitely. Yes, definitely. I'm doing that right now. All right, you're welcome. So, once again, thank you very much for. I like the fact that we showed up on time today. I like that. Let's keep improving. Okay, let's keep improving on our attendance. You know, it's just short. 4:30 to 5:30 is very short, so we can utilize the entire time and then achieve something useful. Okay, I'm looking forward to the practical 1 week where we can see face to face and then do some practical things face to face. It's nice having you guys here. The regular faces, the regular names, Samuel, Tony, Joy, Mayowa, Adebesin. I'm seeing the new persons that joined us today. Victor, Mr. Jude has been there with us. Mr. Francis has always been there. Okay, thanks for joining me today. See you on Tuesday. Please, if you have any questions outside our class and as far as it's related to IoT, you can drop it on the platform. If you have anything that needs to be discussed, you can drop it on the platform. You must not wait for Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday before you can ask your questions. You can ask it at any time. Even though you don't get instant answers, you definitely get answers. And if it raises conversations, everybody there would talk about it. So see you next week. Bye, guys.